Welcome to Moneymaker, the podcast that gives you the tools to enrich your life in every sense of the word. I'm your host, Nely Galan. Let's get started. People always ask me, how have you done everything you've done? You've had like a very intense career life. And I always say, it looks like I've had a lot of success and I've done a lot of things. I've probably only done two or three things that have really done well. And the rest of the time, I have failed a lot. And I talk about that a lot because in order to have two or three things that succeed, you have to fail a lot. And I also think people think when I do succeed, like it seemed like, wow, this girl had a meteoric rise. And in fact, I really didn't. I'm really slow. I've really done everything slowly. I've had many, many years where nothing happens. And it happens in cycles. Like nothing happens and then a lot happens. And nothing happens and then a lot happens. And that's why sometimes when things are going our way and we have momentum, it's not the time to slow down because momentum doesn't always last for many years. I think the other thing that people don't realize is I can't do this alone. None of us can do this alone. I think that when you see people succeed tremendously, it's usually based on how good a team they have and how big a team they have. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a Robert Kiyosaki event and he talked a lot about that. And he said, I have built this business because I have 15 people that work with me all the time. And then he brought them on stage and it was like kind of crazy. Like you don't realize how many people it takes for one person to succeed. And then when that person succeeds, all of those people succeed as well. And I'm going to talk about that. And I think that that's true of me as well. From the beginning, I realized that I just didn't know what I was doing in so many ways, particularly in what I call the back of the house ways. Like I may have started in TV and I kind of over time learned how to produce a TV show. And like TV shows in real estate are two good examples of things that are team sports, right? Like you can't make a TV show by yourself. You can't build a building by yourself. You can't develop a property by yourself. So, in a weird way, my career in my day job, which you now have all heard, that my day job has not made me the money that my real estate life has made me. But that TV job, starting out early as a reporter, writing in a magazine, magazines are also team sports, going to all girl Catholic school is a team sport. So I'm very happy and comfortable in teams. And I think that for those of you that are not, you should think about it because it's very lonely to do things alone. When I wrote a book, it was a weird experience for me because it is an alone sport. Now, once you sell it and once you're marketing it and once you're on the road, you go back to a team sport and that made me happier. But you have to look at who are you? Are you more of an introvert that likes to do things on your own? Or are you a team sport person? But to create quantum success, you better learn to love team sports. And again, TV really prepared me for that because when you make a TV show, you need somebody who is kind of the producer and the organized person. And sometimes there's a producer that's organized and there's a producer that's creative and you partner. There's also the editor. There's also the accountant for the budget of the show. There's just so many people involved. There's a network that you have to sell the show to. You have an entire crew of people that you have to manage and that you have to learn to work with and that you need to learn to consensus build with. And then depending on the show you do, you have to go find experts. You have to go find writers or casting directors or whatever. So I grew up thinking like that. And when I started sort of taking my money and then investing my money and creating, wealth by buying real estate or doing other things or developing real estate, I had to look at myself and go, this is not something I know how to do. So I had to ask around and say, who's the banker? I need a banker because I need to have a relationship with a bank because I knew that I had to borrow money, have lines of credit because the TV shows I was making were going to cost a lot of money and I was going to get paid in a delay. So I needed to bridge the money between me making the show. And that's a lot of risk. So I needed help. I also needed a mortgage broker to buy these buildings. I also needed a tax person. I also needed a CPA. I also needed a bookkeeper. And then within that, if I wanted to remodel a building because I was going to flip it, I needed to hire an architect. I needed somebody that knew the codes of the city. So along the way, I have built multiple teams in multiple areas. And those teams I use over and over again. Like, the other day I was at a girlfriend's house in Malibu and she just, it was the first time she remodeled a house. And I said, why didn't you call me? I have a team that I've been using for 25 years that I can like leave them to remodel a house and I can leave and I know it's going to get done. And like building those teams takes time. And once you build it, you can replicate the work over and over and over again. So when people talk about their success, it sounds like it's their success. They tell the story like it's theirs. And maybe I do that too, because sometimes we forget to say that. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just your success. I don't know if all of you saw Jamie Lee Curtis win the Oscar and she said, this is our Oscar. How many people worked on all the movies I worked on? How many people have been part of this? Right now, I'm doing this podcast. I'm not alone, right? I work with a team of incredible women, Morgan, Nicole, and many other people that they work with to make this happen. So you never do anything alone. And so I think that this idea of going into a business or going into anything you do, I'm thinking also of the people that act. They don't act alone, right? You're acting with other actors and you have all the other people that support actors, the director and the crew. So there is no one except maybe if you're a lone writer writing books on your own until you have to go sell the book or you have to do anything related to your customer, then you can't do it alone. So I think it behooves us to think about very early on. And then I'll tell you for those of us that are older, what we have to think about, which is different. But when you're young, when you go to school, you should be thinking, who are people in this school that are smarter than me in different areas? Is there a kid that's like going to be an accountant and he's in finance and he's really smart? Is there another kid? Is there somebody that's really good, a really good artist? Is there somebody that's they're going to go into insurance or mortgages or whatever? Start finding people and attract them to you. Befriend people that are not like you. We talk a lot about diversity in corporations and diversity. And I think it means diversity on all levels, diversity in skills, diversity in personality types, diversity in ethnicity, because those people bring information about different customers and different cultures, diversity in languages, diversity in religion, diversity. You want to surround yourself with people that complete your weaknesses. And I think that when you do that in life, in jobs, even if you work in a corporation, and then when you start making money and invest either in entrepreneurship or invest in things that are going to make you money while you sleep, you collect a team over time. I think for somebody like me, those of us that are older, it's fascinating for me because I've been living between Los Angeles and Miami. I'm in the middle of moving to Miami. I have to create a new team. Very difficult, very painful, because when you move from one state to the other, it's like moving from one country to the other. And you've got to learn, you have to have a team that knows the laws in the state you're going to. So you have to, for a period of time, have two teams overlapping so they can teach each other. But eventually you have to switch. And that also goes for your doctors. And that also goes for everything. So you also have to pivot and be flexible to change your team later in life. which is very, very difficult for us to do. And also ask yourself the question, is the team that's worked for me up till this point still the right team for me? So, in other words, I'll give myself as an example. When I was doing like 90% of my business was television, I've had a team that is very geared toward entertainment and like the taxes of entertainment, the financing of entertainment, the accounting of entertainment. As I get older, my business is more around investments, real estate, passive income. And so I need a team that's very informed about taxes for that, accounting for that, um, banking for that. So it's tough because not only do you have to find a team, you may have to change up your team as your life goes on. And then as we get older and we move, we have to change our team altogether and your medical team and everything. And I can tell you from my own experience, it's very difficult because I'm used to what I'm used to. And I love the people on my team. And I'm already mourning that I'm in that stage where I'm overlapping a little and I can't bear the thought that my old team is eventually going to be gone. And it's very, very difficult and painful. But to be a money maker, whether you work for others, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're at the early stage of your life or at the stage of your life where you're about to retire and you're going to live on passive income, you can't get to the end of your life and make it without a team. Moneymaker is a production of Money News Network. Moneymaker is written and hosted by me, Nely Galan. Our executive producer is Morgan Lavoie. Thanks for listening. See you next time.